Hi, this is Amber, and today I want to show you how to make one of my favorite things that I've ever had, actually. This is my grandma's homemade potato bread. It's a recipe that she used to make for me when I was little, all the time. And I can remember her getting up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and getting the dough ready and having fresh bread by lunchtime. And she passed away a little over a year ago now, and I learned how to make her recipe so that I could feel like she's with me, because it brings back such great memories. So this is what it's going to look like when we're all done. I see how golden brown that is. And the recipe that we're making today is going to be 3 loaves, so it's going to yield 3. You can freeze the bread. It freezes really well. Just double wrap or double bag it, freeze it. And you can also make this, I make this recipe into rolls for Thanksgiving, so you can convert it for that as well. So follow along, and I hope you enjoy what you're about to see. Alright, let's get started with our potato bread recipe. We are going to need 1 pound of potatoes, which is roughly 2 cups, mashed. And what I did is I just used leftovers from last night's dinner, and this is just in the refrigerator. They can be warm, just not hot. That's not good for it. We need 1/2 cup of milk. You need 1/3 cup of butter, 2 tablespoons of honey, and 2 teaspoons of salt. You also need 2 packages of active dry yeast and a 1/2 cup of warm water for the yeast itself, and then 2 eggs. So first step is to peel and cook your potatoes, and then you're going to mash them, let them cool off a little bit. And what I'm doing right now is I've got my stove going with my 1/2 cup milk, my 2 teaspoons of salt, and my 2 tablespoons of honey with the butter. And that's melting all together. And once that's all done, and I've got my yeast setting up right here, and this takes about 10 minutes in a 1/2 cup of hot tap water, I mix that up, and then we'll be ready to go. So as soon as my butter and honey is all melted, we'll be set to go and get this bread ready for the oven. Okay, now we've got everything ready to go. I've got the butter, the milk, and the honey and the salt all melted together on the stove, and I've got my active yeast warmed up and ready to go in the warm water. So let's go ahead and in the mixer. You can do this by hand if you'd like. My grandma always did it by hand, but I love my mixer. And if you're going to do it with a mixer, you need to have a bread hook. So we're going to first add our potatoes, and that is 2 pounds, a pound, 2 cups of mashed potatoes, any kind, doesn't matter the variety that you want to use. And then this is our 1/2 cup milk, 1/3 cup of butter, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 2 tablespoons of honey. We're going to start this off. We're going to raise this up, and we're going to start mixing it with 3 cups of flour. Like so. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to add some more as we go, so keep that ready. We've got this all raised up, and we're going to start on the lowest setting. We're going to slowly add our yeast mixture. And our butter. To this as well, we're going to add 2 large eggs. Now, as this is going, we're going to add in 3.5 cups more flour. So as soon as this gets incorporated a little bit, we're going to add in 3.5 cups more flour to this dough. So now that it's going, we're going to go ahead and do more. And we're going to add a half cup more. So, now, this needs to go for 10 minutes until it's completely brought together and kneaded. So I'll see you in 10. Okay, so at the end of the last one, I misspoke. If you're doing this by hand, it's going to take you 10 minutes to knead it properly. With the mixer, it's only about 5 minutes. So this is where we're at with it. I'll go ahead and show you. This is what it looks like, and this is when you're ready to stop. We're going to go ahead and turn it off. And we are going to lower it down and just pull it off the dough hook. Like so. It should be sticky but not stuck to you. Sink. Now you're going to take your dough and you're going to let it rise. And I've turned on my oven to a warming temperature, and this needs to double and a half. So it's going to come up over top of our bowl, and I'm going to take a rag and just lay over top of it, and I'm going to set it on my stove, and that takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours for it to rise all the way. So as soon as that's risen up all the way, I'll be back with the next step. Hour and 45 minutes or something like that, I'm not really sure. This is the look we're going for with the dough. Completely filled up my mixing bowl. And what you're going to do now is you're going to punch it down. It's going to collapse within itself. You're going to want to have some flour out. You're going to want to make sure your hands are nice and floured up. You're going to pull out the dough. And this recipe is going to yield you 3 full loaves of bread. So this is quite a lot of bread. And once you have this bread, you're never not going to want to make it again. It is the best bread. And I'm not even kidding about that. It is delicious. So once we get all of the dough, and again, make sure you got plenty of flour because you're going to stick because of the potatoes and the yeast, and it's going to be a sticky, sticky dough. So we get all of it out of here. This is the hard part, getting it out. I'm going to flip it onto, I just got some wax paper laid down on my counter just to protect my counter, and that way it's less of a mess to clean up later. So let's get the rest of this out. So you need 3 loaf pans for this as well, and they need to be greased. I've got mine all ready to go with Crisco over on the other counter. Scrape the rest of this out. Now that I've got one hand completely doughed, what you need to do, a little more flour on my hand, is you need to, we're going to divide this up evenly into 3 loaves that are going to go into our loaf pans. And I've got, again, those greased up with Crisco, and I've got them greased really well, just to make sure that there's no sticking whatsoever. See what I mean? It's really a very sticky dough. Pull this off and roll this with flour on this side. All right, now you're gonna need, you don't want to work it too much either, because it is a bread, so the more you work it, like with any pastry, the stiffer it will become. So let me grab my loaf really quick. I've got 2 glasses in the middle. It doesn't really matter what kind you use. I've always just had odd and end pieces, so this is what I have. Now, we're going to divide this into 3 equal pieces, or equal parts, I guess I should say, for the 3 pans. I'm just going to use a knife. I'm going to roll them up on themselves. And my grandma always shaped them. How she have never ended up with dough on her hands, I'll never understand. I think her hands were pre-greased from all the baking she ever did. And I'm going to pop it right down in here, like so. my second one. I'm going to put this one in here. That. And my third one. Right in there. And then I'm going to let these rise for another 10 minutes just to make sure that they fill the pan all the way. And then we're going to go into an oven, which I've got preheating right now. At 350. It's preheating while they're rising. That way, by the time they're risen, your oven's already heated and you're ready to go. So once they go into the oven, we're going for 35 to 40 minutes. And the sound is how you're going to tell this bread is done. You're looking for a hollow tap on the top. It's going to go golden brown and you're going to tap it and it's going to sound like a hollow loaf. And they're done. So in 35 to 40 minutes, I'll be back and we'll see what the bread looks like. So we open up our oven. This is what we have. Hopefully you can hear this. Hear that hollow. So they're all done. That's the sound you're looking for when you're testing your loaves. So we're gonna bring them out. I can't even describe the smell. It is amazing. Fresh bread. There's nothing like fresh bread. All right. Now, I'm gonna turn off my oven and I'm gonna grab a little bit of butter right here while they're nice and hot. Here they are. And I'm just gonna rub a little bit of butter right on the top of these loaves. Now I'm going to let these cool for about 5 minutes and then Alright, so now to the best part of the entire day. After all the waiting of, you know, baking the bread, letting the bread rise and all that fun stuff, we're going to cut into the bread. So we are going to take our bread knife, and this is after it's cooled for around 5 minutes in the pan, and then I flip it out onto a cooling rack, like so. Just let it cool for a few more minutes because this bread is delicious hot. So this is what all the waiting and all the work is for. Right here, this part of the day. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's got just the biggest nooks and crannies ever because of all the potato in it. Makes it a really dense bread, and it's absolutely delicious. Now this is good. It's good cold for sandwiches, but it is so amazing right out of the oven, and it makes amazing toast in the morning too. So a little bit butter. It's so good. I can't even. You guys are gonna love this bread. So I'm gonna make sure that the recipe is down in the comments for everybody to follow and to make your own bread at home. I would love to see photos and, you know, comments on how your bread turns out and how you guys like the recipe. And I hope you really enjoy it because it's a really special recipe to me. So thanks for watching.